Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you all today. And our session is really all about how to get the best out of your outsourcing team. My name's Sarah from Secret Source. If you don't know who we are an outsourcing team based in the Canary Islands. We tend to call ourselves nearshoring rather than outsourcing, mainly because we're a very short flight away from the UK. We're on the same time zone, just a little bit sunnier. And we have a team of developers who are all permanent staff with us, all located in the EU with a very high command of English. And the reason we wanted to run this session today was that we wanted to share with you our secrets and our lessons learned, some hard lessons learned on how to make an outsourcing relationship work. So whether you're considering outsourcing, whether you've tried outsourcing before and have had a bad experience, or you're a developer and you're thinking of working or contracting with an outsourcer, this session is for you. And we hope there's going to be some really good information to share with you all. I'd like to introduce who will be speaking on the call today. So you've seen my face and you've heard my voice, and I'm the one in the middle there. I look after our clients at Secret Source. So my responsibilities are their interests. So I'm here to represent the customer and be the voice of the customer. But with me today, you can see on my left-hand side is Richard Clark. Richard is the founder of Secret Source. He's been working with and running IT teams for over 15 years. And we also have Rachel Manley with us, who is the CEO of Secret Source. Rachel actually started at Secret Source over 5 years ago as a project manager. So Rachel really knows what it's like to run a project, but also to run a successful outsourcing company. And together, Richard and Rachel are going to share their knowledge, their tips, and their expertise on how to build a successful outsourcing partnership. There will hopefully be lots of information coming your way over this call, so please do ask questions. Put them in the chat. As I said earlier, you can send them directly to me or directly to any of the Secret Source people on the call, or you can just put them in the chat so that everyone can benefit from the answers. At the end of the call, we'll go through the Q&A and we'll answer all of your questions to you. So without further ado, Richard, Rachel, I'll hand over to you.
So I'm going to start off. I'm Richard. Thanks for coming today. Now, before I dive into the theory of building great teams, what I want to do is I just want to tell you a little bit about my history, our history here, so you can understand our thinking and 2 secs. So you can understand our thinking and why the techniques we'll tell you about today will improve your team. So I started working in outsourcing in 2007. It was my first job was just to manage a single website build. And then by the end of 2008, I was managing a team of 10 developers in Asia. So I had clients in the UK that would send me their requirements, and then I would work with the team to build their product. So at the time, I, like many people, believed that outsourcing should be thought of as an external service, a service that worked independently of the client. So a team that would receive instructions and then deliver them, something like this model with sort of me in the middle checking stuff. So I thought in 2007, I thought that the secret to successful outsourcing would be to first make sure that I understood exactly what our clients wanted. Okay, so I obsessed with collecting the perfect requirements. Okay, and then my second job I thought was to manage the team so that our clients could get on with their jobs without being interrupted. Okay, and then the third job was to test any work that our team did so rigorously that when we delivered it, there'd be no problems. So in short, I thought that the secret to outsourcing was just to stay out of my client's hair as much as possible. So take away a problem and then give them time to focus on their things. So this is how I thought it should look. Okay, us on the outside, not bothering the client. Okay, it worked. It did. I got to admit, it did work. We delivered on time and on budget, and most of the time, our clients were more or less happy. Okay, but after a few years of working like this, we felt that there was something wrong. We felt that this was just not the best way to do outsourcing. Look, I have no doubt that this model works very well for some people, for some businesses, customer service, accountancy, things like that. Situations where the work is truly unrelated to the rest of the company. Okay. But for complex like IT knowledge-based work like we do, we felt that this just wasn't the best solution. So we as a company embarked on a quest to rethink how outsourcing should work. And we started by looking at how to create the perfect team. Okay. So we started with the definition. Okay. In the best teams, there is collaboration, a common goal, and a consensus of the desired outcome. And almost instantly, we realized that our project team, the team that was delivering our project's work, included the client, included their designers, their project manager, the business analyst, and also the stakeholders. So how could a model like this work if half the team never even spoke to each other? The best team, there's collaboration. How could we collaborate if half the team never even saw each other? So we set about building an outsourcing model like this, okay, where our teams work inside our clients' teams. But how do you create outsourcing teams that will work like this, where the team is not in the client's office, it's not even in their countries, it can be like 10,000 miles away? How can you make this model a success? Let's take a step back first, okay? So when a team works well, the collective intelligence of the team is greater than the sum of the individual parts. So the output that a team gives is better than the 5 individuals put together, okay? But you don't get the benefits of a team by just putting 4 or 5 people in the same room. So you can't just get 5 people in your country and an outsourcing company and then just put them in the client's team. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Something else needs to happen to stimulate the individuals to work together so that you do create a team. And that's what we're going to today. That's what we're going to explain about. How do you take a group of individuals, some of whom will be in a different location, in a different country, and create an environment where you can get the full benefit of a team? Okay. We've got 5 steps. Here we go. We've got 5 steps. And Rachel is going to start us off and explain step 1.
Okay, thanks, Richard. So hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm Rachel Manley. I'm the CEO of Secret Source. But as Sarah said, I actually joined the company, I think it's 6 years ago now, as a project manager. So I've got firsthand experience of building successful outsourcing relationships. Okay, so the first step is to actually find the right partner for you. And today I want to give you 3 tips for finding the right outsourcing partner that maybe you don't hear so often. So first is to think about your definition of success. This is one of the first things that we discuss with potential partners, and it's really important for the success of our teams. So you need to think about, what does success look like for your organization? Are you looking for technical expertise and advice, or are you really looking for a partner that's just going to respond really quickly to change requests? So I'm not talking about super detailed requirements here. In fact, creating requirements is usually something that a good outsourcing partner is going to help you with. But being really clear about the outcome you want to achieve is going to create alignment with your outsourcing team from the beginning and help find the right partner for you. So the second thing I want you to think about is the sort of expertise that you have in-house. So it's really important to assign someone on your team to manage the outsourcing team, someone who's actually going to be able to spend time collaborating with them. And this is going to help avoid delays when the outsourcing team needs information or access, but it's also going to help keep everyone aligned on the project goals and priorities. So we found that with IT teams that it can also work really well to have someone technical on the client side. So ideally a CTO or maybe a senior developer, someone who really understands the business side and the technical side. Now we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit here, but I would definitely consider setting aside some of your outsourcing budget to make sure that you have the right kind of expertise in-house. So, for example, we worked on a big digital transformation project for a nonprofit a few years ago, and they hired a digital project manager to manage the project in-house. And he worked closely with us to deliver the project. I was actually the project manager on that project, and it worked really well. It would have been really difficult otherwise, as he managed all of the internal stakeholders and helped to keep us on track. And then the third thing to think about is values alignment. So again, one of the first things we look for is values fit with potential clients. We have a really specific way of working. We're focused on employee well-being and building strong relationships with our partners. And so this means that we want to work closely with our clients with daily meetings and regular feedback. And sometimes really clients are just looking for a partner that's going to just do what they're told with minimal disruption, which is fine, but it means they're not going to be a good fit for us. So finding an outsourcing partner with a similar culture to yours is going to make it much easier to work together as well. And finally, a little bonus tip. So, okay, this sounds really obvious. Of course, you want to get it in writing. I think you need to skip on a little bit, Todd, on the slide. So yeah, of course, you want to get it in writing with a statement of work or a services agreement, but I would suggest like really taking your time to talk this through with your partner before you start working. So again, this is to create alignment and make sure that everyone's on the same page about how you're going to work together. So for example, and this is a little thing, but if you work with a partner in another country, are they going to observe UK bank holidays or bank holidays in their own country? So this can be really important if, for example, you discover a bug on your website and the whole team isn't working because it's a bank holiday in their country. So yeah, those are the three sort of tips to think about when you're choosing a partner. And now what's next, Richard?
Okay, so once you've got the right team, a team that you feels the correct match for your needs, someone that matches your values and your goals. Okay, the first stage is to take this team to the next level, and you do that using something called psychological safety. Okay, so for those that don't know what psychological safety is, I'm going to read directly from the slide here. Psychological safety is a condition in which you feel included, safe to learn, safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo, all without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, or punished in any way. So, in summary, if you have psychological safety, when you feel safe in your team to make suggestions, to ask questions, to disagree with other people in your team, you'll feel comfortable to do it. You won't feel afraid. The way I like to describe it is when I was at school, I didn't feel safe putting my hand up in class. I was afraid that people would snigger. I was afraid that the teacher would say it was it was a silly question. I didn't have psychological safety. Google did a big study about 10 years ago. It's called Project Aristotle, where they looked at what were the characteristics of their highest performing teams. And they found that psychological safety was the most important characteristic in their highest performing teams. Okay, and this what I'm saying next is important. They found that if everyone in the team spoke about the same amount, the team did well. Okay, but if only one person or a small group of people spoke all the time, the collective intelligence of the whole team declined. Okay, that's important. So if only one or two people in the team spoke, then the whole team's collective intelligence declined. Okay. So we just got to just want to remember something, that your outsourcing team is not just the developers in another country. Okay, this is really important. It also includes your project management, your project manager, maybe your senior developer, the product owner, even the stakeholders. They're all in the team. The team is everyone involved in the project. And this is often forgotten in outsourcing. You usually think of the outsourcing team as a separate entity. So when we talk about building psychological safety, we're talking about building it in the whole team. And this is critical. Why? Because if your team has psychological safety, then not only will all the good stuff happen, they'll perform better, they'll innovate better, there'll be less staff turnover, all of that stuff. But if things go wrong, and they will, things always go wrong, okay? Or if you need to have difficult conversations, it is much easier to have them if there is psychological safety. If, as a client, you want to give negative feedback, if the developers don't agree with the direction the project is taking, okay, these conversations are so much easier when the team feels safe to talk about them. Okay, so how do you actually build psychological safety, right? Especially in remote teams. It's difficult. It is difficult. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is educate. So everyone in your team needs to know what it is. You need to know its importance and their role in the psychological safety of others. That's important. Okay. Now, in Secret Source, we do it in our onboarding. We run workshops, etc., and we reinforce it all the time. But as a client, you need to be aware of it. And if you're managing the team, if it's your project manager on the team, you need to know how to build it in your, how to build psychological safety in your outsourcing team. Okay. It's the psychological safety of your outsourcing team is not just their responsibility. It's you play a massive part in it as well. Okay. And the second thing you need to do is to build personal relationships. Okay. It is much more difficult asking a stranger a question than it is asking a friend. We all know that. Okay. So you need to build personal bonds. Okay. This means dedicating some time for sort of non-work chat. In the office, you would naturally chat with the people, your colleagues, whether it's around the water cooler or having a coffee at lunchtime, whatever. You have to do this online too. Okay. It's often forgotten. And the third thing you need to do is you need to monitor it. Okay. Teams change. Okay. It is important to keep an eye on how people are feeling. Okay. A person may lose their their feeling of safety if a new member of the team arrives. Okay. So you need to keep checking that everyone feels safe. Secret Source, we do this in our one-to-ones, but as a client, you can probably see it in meetings. Okay. If someone starts contributing a bit less, that's often a sign that they don't feel safe. Okay, so Rachel, now give a couple of insights into how we build psychological safety at Secret Source.
Yeah, so I think one of the best ways to build psychological safety is to actually meet face to face. And by that, I mean, you can do it over Zoom as well, of course. But it's important for everyone to feel involved in an outsourcing project and to actually see each other, you know, at least once a week, I think. So we use daily stand-ups. So 10 minutes each morning to get on a call and give an update on where we are and answer any questions. And it's amazing the impact it can have on productivity when the people actually doing the work can talk directly to the client. And this also goes a long way to building relationships. You know, we always spend 5 minutes talking about the weather. How sunny is it here in Gran Canaria? How cold is it in the UK? Yeah, and it's just a good way to build up those relationships. And the second way is to give regular feedback. So we do this by having retrospective meetings. And these are a chance for the team to get together and talk about what they think's been going well, what's not been going well, and to share any ideas for improvement. So again, doing this regularly stops problems building up and helps the team get used to sharing their opinions and ideas. And so, you know, if you don't do retrospectives, if you don't follow Scrum, then I would still recommend having regular feedback sessions with key stakeholders as well. Okay, next, Richard.
Okay, so you've got the right team. Okay, your team feels safe to talk. Now they need to understand your challenge. Okay, how do you communicate to your IT team what you want? Okay. How do you communicate it to maximize the chances of success, not just of this little project that you're doing with them, but the success of your business as a whole? So if anyone's read the book, Simon Sinek's Start With Why, okay? Every task, every project has a what, a how, and a why, okay? And I'm going to use this, an example with a simple programming task to show what this means. Okay, so the task is change the color of the sign up button on a website from blue to purple. Okay. What you are doing is you're changing the color of the button. Okay. How are you doing it? Probably use CSS. Okay. Why are you doing it? To increase signups on the web service, to your web service. Okay. So now compare the two different ways you could ask your IT team to do this very simple task. Okay. You could first say, can you please change the color of the sign up button to purple? Okay. Or two, you could say, as a team, can you increase the number of people who sign up to our web service? Okay, you see the difference? Okay, the first question gives no ownership to the team, and the second gives full ownership. The first question just tests their very simple CSS skills, and the second question leverages the full intelligence of the whole and the innovation skills of the whole team. Okay, the second question will more likely address the business needs and probably more likely to increase web signups. So you should always start with why. So if you want your IT team to truly succeed, if you want them to be really part of your team, if you want them to be able to own each challenge as if it's their own, they need to understand your business goals and why you want to do things. Okay. Rachel's going to explain how we do this at Secret Source.
Yeah. Okay, so how can you share your why with an outsourcing team? So something that we find really helpful is when a client shares a business context or goals with us. So instead of just saying we want to build X application, they share why and the impact that it's going to have on their business. And so this is really powerful as it can give the team a shared sense of purpose. And once they understand the business goals, they might even be able to offer better alternative solutions. And it's really helpful to do this at least once a year, preferably in person. So you can, sit down with your outsourcing team and maybe share your goals for the year, share a roadmap of what you're thinking for them and the business. And this also goes back to the definition of success that I talked about earlier. So this is something that we talk about regularly with our clients. And in fact, one of my favorite phrases when working with a client is, okay, help me understand why. We never just do what a client asks us to do blindly. We always try to understand the business context. Next.
Okay, so you've got your team. Okay, they feel safe. They understand what you want to do and why you need to do it. Okay, the next step is to let them do their job. Okay, it seems obvious, but you need to give them ownership of their work so that your team can flourish. Right. Ownership's a tricky concept to explain and one that's often misunderstood. So I want to start by explaining what ownership is. Okay. Firstly, ownership means that you take responsibility for your tasks. Okay. When I hear phrases like, yeah, John, he never answered my question, so I didn't finish, or I'm still waiting for Sarah, that is a sign that that person isn't owning that task. They're trying to pass the responsibility to someone else. Ownership means that you take responsibility for the task, even if other people are doing it. Secondly, ownership is you are accountable for the outcome. Todd, can you advance it? So when someone says, I followed the designs, there we go. So when someone says, look, I followed the designs I was given, and I know they don't look great on a mobile phone, but that's what they asked me to do. That shows limited ownership. It means that that person is doing exactly what they're asked to do, but they're not owning it. People often understand ownership as working by themselves. Okay, I've been given this task, therefore it's my responsibility, and I have to do it. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean that you are responsible for the outcome, for the work. Okay, it does not mean working alone. It does not mean working late. It does not mean working at weekends. Okay, ownership means taking responsibility, being accountable, and ultimately owning the problem as if it was your own challenge. Okay. So I hear I'm breaking up. 2 secs. I'm just going to very quickly reconnect to the Wi-Fi. I'm going to drop off very quickly. Okay, hopefully that should be better. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you build a culture of ownership in your outsourcing team? How do you get your team to work as if it was their own company? Okay. So the first thing to do is educate. Okay. If your team aren't showing ownership skills, teach them what ownership looks like. Okay. Many people think they understand it, but they don't. So you need to teach your team. Secondly, give your team the freedom to make their own decisions, right? This is really difficult, okay? Especially when you're outsourcing with a team a long way away, but you cannot micromanage, okay? You need to give them the freedom to solve a problem themselves. I know from personal experience, it is very difficult to let go. How can you trust a team that's so far away? How do I even know that they're working on my project? Okay. You've got to check everything. However, please remember, you have employed a team to do a job. Okay. These are intelligent people. Okay. You have to let them do their job. If you don't trust them and you feel you have to micromanage, either you've got the wrong team or probably outsourcing isn't the best solution for you. Okay. And the third thing is no blame. Okay. Things will go wrong. They won't always go to plan. So if you want your team to continue to innovate, to continue to have psychological safety, and to continually own the tasks that they're given, they mustn't be blamed when things don't go perfectly. Now, one thing that we do at the start of every retrospective is to remind people of the prime directive. Okay, so regardless of what we discover, we understand and truly believe that everyone did the best job they could, given what they knew at the time, their skills and abilities, the resources available, and the situation at hand. This is a really good way of setting the tone in a meeting and establishing a no blame culture. Okay. Now, Sarah's got some good examples of ownership that we've got in Secret Source. So hopefully this should help you understand what it looks like.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so as I said when I started the call, my job here at Secret Source is to look after our clients and their interests. To me, ownership is really about buy-in. You know, if someone who is contracting with you feels bought into your company and the team they're working in, they're invested. And as Richard and Rachel have already discussed, it starts with treating them like they're a part of the team, not just a contractor, involving them in planning meetings, socials, making them feel like they are part of the organization. Just a couple of examples. We had one literally 2 weeks ago. In the early stages of our project, our client was presenting what they wanted built. One of our developers pushed back and said that he didn't feel that that was right, didn't really represent value for time and money, and he was suggesting another option for consideration. And the client actually really liked that. And fundamentally, this is what you're paying for, not bodies, but brains, skills. And if you don't feel bought in at work and you don't have ownership, you just do what you're asked and no more, you know, as per Richard's example. We want our teams to bring ideas and suggestions to the table. And our client loved that he was offered an alternative that he hadn't considered. But without ownership and psychological safety, you won't get that. And this is why we've also had our developers working, you know, on the weekends, fixing bugs on a Sunday morning for a client, because they care, because they're invested. You know, they want to go that extra mile. We've had situations where developers have come up with solutions to problems outside of their core area because they're aware of what is needed in other parts of the business and they're involved in the overall IT strategy. So much more like a partner than just a contractor. But we've also had situations where things haven't gone as planned. You know, we've had timescale slip, we've had upgrades get delayed. It's a very fraught time for the client. But by having that open culture without blame, by having regular retros where everyone can feed back on what went well and actually what can be improved in the next sprint, you're focusing everyone much more on what we can all do together to move forward rather than focusing on pinpointing blame. So just a couple of examples there on how we see that ownership really directly benefiting the end client. Rachel, back over to you for the next step.
No, back to me.
That's for you. Cool.
Right. So, and the final point is make it fun. Okay, correct. This might seem a little bit unnecessary, but all the research shows that a happy team have a significant effect on the bottom line of your company. If your team is happy, it increases productivity, reduces staff turnover, improves business performance. Okay. So if you make working with your outsourced team fun, it will benefit you and your business. Now, when we first meet our clients, we tell them, like, we don't want a one-night stand with you. We don't even want to date you either. We want to get married, and we want to stay married with you for a long time. And making the relationship enjoyable is one way of doing this. Right. So how do you make your team happy? How do you make it enjoyable? So a couple of things. Okay. First thing, build personal relationships. We've talked about this before. Okay. Whilst we don't expect you to become best buddies, building personal relationships will make the team happier. Okay. So a couple of tips here. Firstly, meet up whenever you can. If you can visit your outsourced team, do it. Take them out for dinner, take them out for lunch, find out about their families. Okay. Find out what drives them. Okay. And if you can, get your outsourced team over to the UK or wherever you are. One of our teams just went over for the Christmas meal last year with our team in the UK. The second thing, always leave your camera on. Okay. It's important. A lot of teams don't do it. It's really important. And secondly, so dedicate time to non-work talk. Okay. If you're in the office, you'd regularly chat about football, the latest TV show. So do that with your outsourced team. Okay. Dedicate time for non-work talk. Don't make it all work. Okay. You can do this at the start of meetings. You can have random coffees, but building personal relationships will have a massive effect on your team. Okay. Next thing, build a culture of positivity. Okay. So research shows that positive behavior, positive feedback increases happiness. So if you have a more positive outlook in life, you tend to be happier. Okay. However, naturally, humans have something called a negativity bias. Okay. So we will pay more attention to negative events. So take an example. You've just had a performance review with your line manager, and that your line manager has said, right, 9 out of 10 things you do are amazing or really good. But this one thing, yeah, you could improve it a bit. You are going to focus on that one thing. I can't believe they said that. Terrible. Okay. It's human nature. And in a team, it's really easy. Well, it's almost natural to become negative, to focus on what went wrong in the last sprint, for example. So you need to force your team almost to think of positive news. And a couple of tips here, a couple of really simple tips. Okay. Start every retrospective with a what went well. Okay. Celebrate every success that you've had. And the second thing, this one I learned from Jamie Peacock. He's the former captain of the England Rugby League team. Okay. I went to a webinar of his. And if you find yourself in a team that too often focuses on the negative, start off your meeting with something called Peak of the Week. Okay. And in this, everyone on the team has to say what's their peak of the week. What's the best thing that's happened to them? Could be, my daughter drew a nice little picture. I cooked the best brownies I've ever cooked. I went to the cinema, or whatever. But starting off a meeting with positive thoughts, it can really transform a team that thinks negatively. Okay, so that's it. Those are our 5 secrets. First of all, you need to find the right partner, someone that fits your values and understands your goals. Okay. Second thing, you need to make that partner feel safe so that they can give their feedback. They can help your team. Okay. Third thing, you need to share your why so they understand why they're doing the work they're doing. Okay. Not just what they're doing. Then let them do their job. Please don't micromanage. Trust them. Okay. And finally, make it fun. Okay, and that's it. I think we've got about 20 minutes for questions. So, Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, we've had quite a few questions come in. I'll read a couple of them to you. First question we had in was asking about How do you deal with the challenging situation if the client themselves doesn't have psychological safety in their organization?
Whoa. The client themselves doesn't have psychological safety in their own organization.
Yeah. So then how do you work effectively with an outsourcing partner?
Okay, right. So there's not much that an outsourcing partner can do about that, but I would focus on building psychological safety within that particular team, within the outsourcing team, and with that person within the company. Now, if it's possible for you to work on psychological safety within your own company, you should try to do that. That's tricky if there's not buy-in from other people in the company. But just focus on what you can control, I would say, and make your own.
Well, and I think it's worth saying that obviously a lot of the tips that we've got here work for your own team, obviously, as well as an outsourcing team. So yeah, start with your own.
Yeah, control what you can control.
Robert says sorry for that question.
Yeah.
No, it's a good one, and it's valid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very valid. You know, it's to be aware of that this could potentially be a bigger part of the problem. So no, but good question. Another question we've had in saying that I have a team in India. The English isn't great. We can only really converse by chat. Any tips on how to overcome it?
Okay, so this is where I started. My first few years, I worked with a team in India, a very good team. And yes, we only spoke by chat. I worked with some developers for 2 or 3 years, and I never ever spoke to them. It's fine. There are limitations to it. You won't ever get proper collaboration. You won't ever get proper ownership. But if you understand that's the situation, you just have to work. That's the best you can do. That you just have to work with that situation. Okay. Yeah. Just understand the limitations of not being able to actually speak to them.
Yeah. I will also say that for us as well, kind of, 5 years ago, we had developers here, and they never spoke to the client, and everything was done sort of via me as the native English speaker. And again, for us, it was a big change when we started to actually involve everyone on the team. So I think if you can have a little bit of patience, maybe with the language, it's amazing how quickly things improve as well. And it definitely helps to be able to talk to people, I think.
Cool. Another question we've had in, is there an ideal ratio between outsourced versus in-house staff? What dependencies, if any? Good question about balance of team.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've had kind of all different ratios, for some people we're their whole IT team, and for other people we're part of a much bigger one. I think I would just go back to what I said earlier, which is that if possible, I do think it's helpful to have someone senior on your side. So if you're going to spend money, that's where I would spend it. I think it just helps to, mitigate that risk of not knowing maybe not knowing fully what the IT team are doing, or maybe worries about quality. If you have someone on your side who understands it and can work directly with the team, I think that's a good way to do it.
Cool. I've got a couple of other questions. And says, how do I know my outsourcing team are doing well if I'm not technical? How do I view their success or failures?
Wow. Okay. Okay. That is tricky. You can't. You can't check their code if you're not, and so you don't know if their code is good. And again, this was something that I wasn't technical when I started, and some of the stuff that we produced wasn't of the highest quality. Yeah, going back to Rachel, I do suggest, if you can, get someone on your team that's technical, that can oversee them. But if that's your team already, but if you're still choosing a team, just do your research on them, speak to their past clients, find out what they're like, Okay, if you can't get someone on your team, just do your research. Don't just look at what the website looks like or their work looks like. Speak to their clients who actually have technical ability, and see what they've said about that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly with outsourcing, referrals are really helpful. In fact, that's basically how we've built our business, getting referrals from other customers. So I think ask your network if they've worked with someone that they would recommend. I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
I've got another question that I've already answered, but I thought I'll ask it to you guys, because we might have some different answers. But in your experience, do clients expect better performance from an outsourced team member? Better performance and results from an outsourced team member?
Rachel?
I answered it by saying, yeah, I think so. You know, I think there's this view that, being frank, you know, an outsourced individual is often seen as more highly skilled, more highly paid. Yeah. So perhaps, yeah, there is this view that, well, you know, we should hold them to a slightly higher criteria in terms of their performance, in terms of their results. But I think it goes back to that building a team. You know, that doesn't work well if certain members of the team are being judged differently. And that's where having someone like a project manager, whether it's on the outsourcer side or a project manager inside the client, is there to really, you know, try and stop those behaviours and just treat everybody as part of the same team. But I think there's a truth there.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you are paying for the expertise, again, it goes back to what Richard said, then let them do their job, give them kind of the freedom and the trust to show their expertise as well. Yeah.
We've been asked, what sort of team building events do we do at Secret Sauce that help with building psychological safety inside our company?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call this a team building event, but I said it earlier, doing retrospectives kind of every 2 weeks at the end of a sprint is like a foundation of building psychological safety. Again, because people get used to every 2 weeks sharing things that they didn't think went well, and also things that went well, of course, so reinforcing the positive and giving ideas for how to improve. So I think that's a basic. You know, on top of that, we get together at least once a year with the whole team to do team building events where we can just spend time together and build those personal relationships. And again, we also encourage our clients to come out as much as they can. Obviously, it's a nice place to come and visit in the Canary Islands, but definitely when clients come and they can just go for lunch with the team or for a dinner or just sit down and talk through what their business goals are for the year is really important. Yeah.
And then another thing that's worked quite well is our clients actually doing one-to-ones with our team. So whether it's the project manager, the CTO, or whatever, sitting down with each member of our team for half an hour a month or an hour a month, and just doing one-to-ones, that really helps as well.
Yeah, because this is the thing, we work closely with our clients, and our team obviously really cares about doing a good job for the client, and so they really appreciate getting feedback, that sort of direct feedback.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other questions that was actually part of the previous question, but I think is related to this, is, you know, how important is it that the outsourced team members get that context on clients' culture, goals, business processes? And I think that directly relates to what you're talking about, that it's that helps that person feel like, or those people feel like they're part of the team, that it's all related to ownership. You know, if you don't know the client's culture, you don't know what their business goals are, you don't have the opportunity to have that buy-in, to have that ownership.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's all of the questions. Let me just have a quick scan through. One was just a comment rather than the question. It was like, are you in the Canary Islands? ? Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're pretty much, most of us are based here. We've got a couple of people. Sarah's in Extremadura, but yeah, we're based in the Canary Islands.
Yeah, and it is sunny today.
Yeah.
So says you and me with our hoodies on, like it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think there's any more questions. Richard, Rachel, any closing statements from either of you?
No, thank you very much for coming today. It's been fun.
Yeah, and I just think if you've got any more questions or you want to have a chat, I think, is there a slide at the end with some email addresses on? But yeah, just drop us an email. We're happy to chat.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my email address. So sarah@secret-source.eu. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything you want to chat about, I know some of you have sent messages just one-on-one. Feel free to drop me a note. We'll leave that up just for another minute or so you can copy it if you want to. Thank you so much for joining. Really happy to speak with you all today. I'm really happy to answer any questions you have going forward. Thank you all and have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
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 Bye.